Cheers, YouTube. Hope you're doing great. In today's upload, I'm giving you some quick thoughts and reaction to the latest This Week at Bungie newsletter. Now, I don't put out opinion videos often, but a few things in the latest TWAB caught my eye. I'm going to keep this video short and sweet. I know there are already a bunch of 10 to 15 to 20 minute videos out there, and YouTube doesn't need another one.
You're goddamn right.
Okay, let's get into the points of the TWAB that jumped out at me. And remember, plenty can be said about all of these issues, but I am trying to keep this short. Tick-tock. Like a lot of people, I really honed in on the information about the upcoming weapon changes. And in particular, we are going to be getting changes to hand cannons that I think in some respects will shake things up. In other respects, maybe not as much as people were, hoping for. Let's talk about the changes to the aggressive archetype. So they're moving the rate of fire from 110 to 120. And it looks like we are going to continue to see these shine as kind of the ranged hand cannon options. Now, I did some very quick reading online. I don't know that the shift from 110 to 120 is going to make that much of a difference without a bump in the damage numbers, and it doesn't seem like that's happening. So when I looked at the TTK calculations that some people are throwing out there, it looks like these aggressive archetype hand cannons, the now 120s, will be a bit more competitive than they are presently as 110s. They will have, I suppose, range advantages, but I don't know that it's going to push these to the upper echelon of weapon choices. And I know I've seen a lot of videos saying, hoard your 110s, they're going to be the new meta, whatever. I don't know. That may or may not be the case. It doesn't seem on the face of things that that is what's going to happen here, based on what we're seeing from Bungie this week. As for the changes to the lightweight archetype, the 150s, effectively making them all 140s but for Sunshot, which is an exotic, I've seen mixed reaction to this. Frankly, I'm okay with it, and I think this actually highlights an issue that Bungie has, and that is just the sandbox is really cluttered, and we'll talk about this a little bit with respect to scout rifles shortly. There's a lot going on here. We, to this point, have had 110s, 140s, 150s, 180s. There's a lot of balls in the air to juggle if you're Bungie, and trying to balance everything has got to be a nightmare behind the scenes. So I'm okay with this. I know a lot of people have mentioned, oh, this is just lazy, getting rid of the archetype altogether. Look, I think it's going to be okay. What will it actually mean in terms of top tier weapons? Look, Ace of Spades maybe now becomes top tier once again. It was on PC for a long time. Maybe it moves back into the limelight a bit. If nothing else, we'll have an opportunity to use some of the weapons that I think have been ignored for a long time now. Just shake things up. I'm not a big proponent of change just for the sake of change, but I think if you spent a lot of time with this game over the last couple of years, things have stagnated. Things have gotten a bit stale in some respects, not all, but I think what this does will put other weapons on the table to use. I mean, no one's stopping anybody from using a 140 as it currently is, but you've got some pretty good raid hand cannons, for example, Nation of Beasts, the one from Garden of Salvation, whose name escapes me as I'm recording this, maybe gives them a chance to shine. And I will say, this is why I save all of my weapons, or as many as possible, and really load up that vault, because you never know when Bungie is going to pull on one lever and ease off the pressure on another one. So I got a bunch of these sitting in my vault, ready for action, some PvE rolls, some PvP rolls. I think it will be an opportunity for people to try out some weapons they've previously ignored, and I don't think that there's anything necessarily wrong with that. I also think hopefully it simplifies things on Bungie's end just a little bit, because we'll be left with 120s, 140s, and 180s with Sunshot and the last word is kind of outliers. Hopefully the core hand cannon balancing can be a little bit more efficient and better, because there are fewer balls in the air for Bungie to juggle. Just a quick note in passing on auto rifles. If you've been in Crucible over the last couple of seasons, you know that auto rifles, the 600 rate of fire archetype, Gnawing Hunger, and its brethren have been very popular. So they're tuning those back a little bit. Personally, I'm okay with that. I know that it will be a bit controversial, because I think that it has made PvP, Crucible, a little bit more accessible for players, because auto rifles, whether you like it or not, tend to be a little bit more user-friendly and forgiving. I mean, they can be punishing too, because you have to really step out of cover to do damage. and expose yourself to damage for a period of time. But I think they're pretty easy to pick up and roll with. So they're going to tune those back a little bit. Small incremental adjustments, fine tuning, I'm all for. Do I wish that it would happen a little bit more frequently as opposed to waiting for a big content release like Beyond Light? Yeah. And so I'll get on Bungie for that a little bit. As for a weapon type that folks I think wish would be tuned to be more powerful, scout rifles, there are some upcoming changes here to aim assist. Bungie has said that they can't be adjusted too much without making them dominate. Again, I think scout rifles are a victim of a very cluttered sandbox. If you think back to D1, scout rifles were in that kinetic slot. They competed with other kinetic weapons, and that was really it. Now they are competing with pretty much every weapon in the sandbox, but for heavy exclusive weapons, they're just not very good. And I think Bungie recognizes that if you make weapons that are very powerful from a distance too good, they will be used as often as possible. I think that's really what they mean when they say without making them dominate the battlefield. If you can do a lot of damage from a distance, that equals damage from safety. That's what you're going to see people using. I know a lot of people want that hung jury back. They want their favorite D1 scout to rise again. I don't know that scout rifles are really going to be tuned to a point where they are the preferred weapon type. I mean, primaries across the board are kind of anemic, especially for PvE content. That's a criticism I see frequently. An interesting thought that we kicked around over the last day or so was primaries leave slivers of health so that finishers have a place in the game and so that cool finishers can be sold in the Eververse store. You decide. Moving down, just a couple of other points here. Mountaintop is getting tweaked, notwithstanding the fact that it is also being sunset, which I find interesting because I think that part of the justification for sunsetting was we want to have some of these extremely top tier weapons take a bit of a backseat so that way other weapons can shine. One of the criticisms I saw of sunsetting was, well, why don't they just tune the specific weapon? Why don't they just nerf it into oblivion so it's not viable anymore? I find this interesting because I think you would be expecting to see Mountaintop, if it were unchanged, in Crucible that's not light level enabled. So your quick play playlist, I think Bungie is acknowledging here and has recognized that if they don't tweak the weapon, it's still going to be used in a good portion of the Crucible. And so at the end of the day, I'm okay with Mountaintop being tuned down a little bit in terms of PvP. It hasn't ruined my experience, but I know a lot of people have issues with it, so no problem there. Falling Guillotine, that is going to be receiving a substantial damage reduction. See the 24% there. All I can say is it's been fun. A lot of people, myself included, have melted a lot of bosses and other enemies over the last season with this thing. Remember the good times. I said earlier that we didn't need another 10 to 20 minute video on the TWAB, but as for some things that are needed, let me quickly mention Underscore. Underscore provides business management services to content creators, esports players, and other online personalities, so they can focus on what they do best, creating, competing, and influencing. If you're a content creator, esports player, or other online personality, you should have a trusted advisor in your corner looking out for your interests and overseeing your business affairs. Visit NDRSCR.com to contact the Underscore team. That's going to do it for me. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.